Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Chris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Today, we're super excited to have Chris Goethe, Vice President of Franchise Development for SkyZone. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. I like when we have some of these brands on that people have probably heard the names, right? So those bigger brands, and SkyZone fits into that. So Chris, kind of take us back a little bit. Give us a little bit of history on sort of the creation of SkyZone and, from when it was initiated up to now, it's a global brand, right? It's across multiple countries. So tell us a little bit about the background.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Yeah, it's been around for over 20 years. And there was a gentleman, a young man at the time named Jeff Platt, and he actually started something that was more like American Gladiators using trampolines. It was kind of an idea that he had in his mind for a business. He actually tried to pursue some TV contracts for it as well. So it was very similar to American Gladiators, but it was using trampolines and like dunking a ball in a kind of a basketball rim type thing and scoring points. That's what the initial concept really was all about. And it didn't really get much traction as that business, but it began to kind of morph a little bit into more of a trampoline type of a park. And back when he started this business, like almost 100% of the room of the space of the park was just trampolines. And it has completely evolved really since then. It's much different today.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. American Gladiator. That's an old one.
So, Chris, for everybody listening and watching, give us a little bit more detail on what it is actually now. If I walk into a SkyZone, what is it? Who's the customer? Different things going on in there because there's a lot going on in there. Describe it for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, so it is really the largest indoor entertainment type of a park currently today. The average size of these parks are 30 to 35,000 square feet. So they're really
Big.
big.
Right.
And most of them have 18-foot ceilings, which are required for most of the attractions that are in the park. As I mentioned, 80%, or it used to be mostly trampolines. Today, it's only about 20% trampolines. And the other 80% are other features like zip lines and dodgeball and super slides. And they have what's called soft play for infants that's pretty incredible. And it's just really an unbelievable indoor playing attraction now that's a ton of fun. And the age group that's attracted to it is basically ages 2 to 19. The sweet spot is probably 5 to 12 in that range.
Well, then why does my husband always want to go with the kids if that's
Yeah,
age right,
no.
right? Like, I
Uh-huh.
don't know. He's not fitting
Yeah,
in
well, I
on
know.
a 19.
Well, he has to
That's-
wear special socks when
he
he
does.
comes in.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so Chris, so obviously there's other trampoline parks out there, right? So SkyZone's been around 20 years, but we've seen, whether there's like, launch, altitude, there's different names I've heard out there. How do you continue to differentiate yourself from other trampoline parks and other sort of indoor entertainment spaces?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of differentiators to the customer, and there's probably a couple of differentiators to the owner of the franchise, right? So to the customer, we're really the only park that has what's called a membership model. And, since you're in the franchise world, you know that membership model is a real hot thing these days, whether it's,
Yeah.
lawn care or uh, any kind of franchise that's out there, having that monthly recurring revenue is super attractive to a franchise owner, but it's very attractive as well to the consumer. So in the case of Sky Zone, you can pay a monthly fee and have unlimited access to the park. So
Wow.
that's one of the
Wow.
uniquenesses, right? One of the other ones is it's a big party place. So most of our franchise parks have between 4 and 8 party rooms that just stay packed on Saturday and Sunday and holidays and nights with party after party. And so when you think about who comes to a party, right? So I don't know if you have small children, but if you do, you've been to some parties, right? So at Sky Zone, 53% of the group for a party have never been in a Sky Zone before. And the franchisee who owns the park, when they walk in the park, they sign in with a QR code and give all their pertinent information, their email address and phone number and age of the child, and they begin getting marketing or marketed to immediately for membership. So this is how this brand really grows. It's the birthday party and whatever party they're having becomes kind of the flywheel to growth for the rest of the park, as
Wow.
opposed to just normal marketing for one-off days.
Yeah.
Here's another differentiator is that we are an all-inclusive play when you come in the park. So you don't pay a different rate to play on go-karts or a different rate to play on these rides. You pay one fee when you come in the door and you have access to everything that's in the park.
Wow. That is really it didn't sink into me when I learned this before. So it's really brilliant because you're the member, I own the Sky Zone. You're going to bring 20 of your friends for a party. Normally when that happens, the business owner is going to say, "Yeah, you're going to bring your friends, but I'll have to give them a free trial." But no, no, no. You the member, you're going to pay for all those people
Exactly right.
to be
Yeah.
introduced to me so I can market to them in my place and sign up more members.
Bingo, man. You
Man,
just saw the secret sauce. And
Yeah.
over half of those children have never been in a park before. So
nice.
yeah,
Very
it's
nice.
perfect.
So you mentioned membership and parties. Are there other revenue streams besides those two?
Oh yeah. So I'll give you an interesting one first that represents about 4% of the revenue.
Okay.
It's socks. So Sky Zone sells more socks in the US than any other sock retailer, including Amazon.
Wow.
Including
Yeah,
Amazon.
So
Wow.
including
it's not just Andrea's husband and has to put the socks on all the time. It's everybody.
That's right.
Okay.
You all have to put the socks on. Food and beverage is a big component for revenue stream. So in every one of our parks, we have what's called a fuel zone. Now, this is not like grease pits where you cook French fries. This is basically pizza and nachos and snacks and things like that. But on Saturdays and Sundays when you're having parties, it's like pizza after pizza after pizza after pizza. And that represents about 11 or 12% of your total revenue as a business. That's a lot of money. That's profitable revenue. It's food.
Yeah, a lot of different ways that, you're hearing sort of birthday parties, memberships, socks, the food, the entertainment, and then
Right.
isn't there sort of special event nights too? I remember one of our local ones is like glow in the
Mhm.
dark night. So you have other
Yeah.
other things that are coming in. So lots of different ways to bring money in. So right now it all sounds good. Sounds fun, right? A lot of entertainment. What are some of the challenges to getting sort of into a Sky Zone, getting this up and running?
Well, I've already mentioned one of the big challenges, which is finding a space that's between 25 and
Yeah,
35,000
it's big.
square feet,
Yeah.
right? One of the beautiful aspects of Sky Zone is that we don't need that road frontage Class A retail space to be seen. We don't try to locate our Sky Zones near anchor stores. We are the anchor. So we have some very successful franchises that are in Class B industrial locations. And there's a lot more availability of facilities of that size in areas like that. So that's one of the challenges is finding that, but we've had a lot of success at it. We have great real estate partners, a great internal team that knows how to find the right sites and help negotiate good leases.
Okay. Chris, will Sky Zone work in most markets? And specifically, what I'm asking is, like, I'm in Chicago, so Sky Zone's a godsend for parents when it's
Mhm.
January, February, it's snowy, yucky, right? But you're in Georgia, where you're wearing a fleece vest and it's 60 degrees outside. Um, so like, will it work just as well in an Atlanta, where it's beautiful out and people go outside and can hike and do more fun things than they can do here in Chicago? Is there any kind of considerations like that?
Not like what you just described. So Atlanta's
Okay.
a great market. We've got 4 or 5 locations here currently. We've just signed a couple of new franchisees for Atlanta. Atlanta probably can host a dozen or so franchises, we think. Um, we're having tons of success in Florida, which is the sunny South, right? Every reason in the world to stay outside, but they come inside. This is a fun place. We kind of have a kind of an internal motto. We say play is not a luxury, play is a necessity. And we talk about how dominated this world is with technology right now, and parents need a break. And most parents or most franchise prospects that I talk to are also parents, and they struggle like perhaps you do if you have children. How do you keep your child from spending too much time watching Bluey on your iPad? you know well, come to a Sky Zone, put your iPad down and jump for 2 hours. So we think we're kind of the antidote to this technologically driven world in that respect.
Yeah, that's great. So, Chris, obviously, you need up to potentially 35,000 square feet, I think I heard you say. So,
Mhm.
that's a pretty big space. And so, this is definitely an investment that is a significant investment, right? And so, it's a higher cost investment. So, just somebody who only has a couple $100,000 isn't going to go into a Sky Zone. So, tell me the type of person that you're looking for. Who's sort of the ideal candidate to open a Sky Zone?
Yeah, so the ideal candidate for us is really a sophisticated type of a buyer that really understands has a good level of financial acumen. We love it when they come from either an entrepreneur background or a C-suite executive background. That seems to represent the vast majority of our ideal buyers. Um, but from a financial perspective, Andrea, we're looking for 1.8 million in net worth and 600,000 liquidity. So one of the challenges, and so that's a pretty high barrier to entry for
Yeah.
a franchise.
Right.
We think the total investment's probably going to be somewhere between 2.1 and 5.1. We think the average is going to be around 3.5 million or so. Um, and then that is a barrier. But it's not just having the cash liquidity for us to buy a franchise. Think about the fact that 90% of our franchise owners are going to be leasing a building instead of building something ground up. Some people already have a building, or some people or they want to buy a piece of land and they want to build ground up. You can do that. You can do that with us, but the vast majority sign leases. And depending on where you are in the country, that's going to be a little more challenging as far as your personal balance sheet. So we're looking for people that have a strong financial balance sheet so that when they get to the signing of the lease, they won't struggle with a landlord. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That really helps. So, kind of tying in on that though a little bit. So, when you think about that, that's sort of financially the ideal candidate and the type of person that you're looking for. Who who's a person? What are they doing though? What's their day to day look like as the owner? If they're C-suite in there bouncing on those trampolines with
Yeah.
everybody.
So, and this is another beautiful aspect from a franchise perspective, Andrea. This is a so let's talk about this in the world of alignment, right? So we're trying to align people operationally, financially, and culturally. So financially, it's kind of an easy deal. How much money do you have, and how much do you want to make? And that's one alignment. But operationally, when we're aligning people, um, most franchises require an owner operator type of a model for a new owner. We don't require that. We're fine if you want to hire a GM right out the gate and grow this business. Now, the caveat to that, like every franchise just about that you represent and that I've represented, is that the more you put into it on the front end as an actual owner operator, the faster it'll probably ramp up. That's the case here too, but it's not mandated by any stretch. In fact, most franchise owners come into this buying more than one right out the gate, and they have a management plan, and that plan is to hire a GM to run one and hire another GM for the second, another one for the third. And if they want to be active, they can be, but if they don't want to be, they don't have to be either. And so the main day to day, as you asked, of a franchise owner is it can be day to day running the business, but very seldom does that happen. It's mostly hiring a general manager and spending time in the community, building relationships with the right people that uh, need to know about your park and need to be participating as a customer in your park.
Great answer, Chris. So I'm sure you get this question a lot because I know Andrea and I, whenever we show any franchises having to do with kids at all, we're always asked about liability and insurance. You have kids jumping around on trampolines. So how do if somebody says, I love the business, but I'm unsure about, uh, insurance, liability, I'm uncomfortable. How do you address that?
Yeah, so that's a real thing that does happen. Children do get hurt from time to time in the parks, and insurance is required for this industry. One of the big barriers to mom and pops getting in this business is they can't afford the insurance and make a profit. What we decided to do a few years back was to self-insure our franchise owners in their parks, and that's what we do. We have a an insurance company we use for major things, but most of the insurance is covered for the franchise owner is self-insured with SkyZone. So we're able to do two things with that. We're able to keep the premiums low for the franchisee so he can have all of the coverage he needs for his park and keep the price of insurance substantially lower than he could if he went outside to buy it. So that's a big financial piece. The other piece is we have solid best practices for that franchise owner in his park to keep his incidents down. So and then by the way, the better he is at keeping incidents down, the lower his rate is going to be as a percentage of revenue with the insurance. So that's the way we've dealt with it. And it's been a wonderful solution to this problem. Again, other companies struggle with this because they have to go outside and buy insurance. We keep it all in house and we keep it substantially lower with rates than an outside insurance company. But the best practices piece is important too. And I don't want to understate that. Nobody wants a child to run into another child and hurt something, but it's going to happen. So we try to minimize it with best practices in the park. We have video cameras everywhere, so we have a record of what happened and how it happened. Uh, we have regular audits from a corporate oversight perspective with the franchisee. so that we can make sure everything's up to par with equipment, and he's doing the things that he needs to do by getting waivers when they walk in the front door and making sure that they have captured all of that information.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think there's a lot of good aspects about Sky Zone, this business, for the right person, right? For, the higher investment level person. And so thanks for kind of going through that. I think we hear a lot about, I always thought of this as a sort of one and done. And now you've kind of opened my mind to sort
Mm.
of the recurring revenue piece to it, a lot of different revenue streams and for the right candidate. And so thanks, Chris, for going through that. Chris, we're going to pivot a little bit and we're going to throw some rapid fire questions at you that we like to do at the end. And you've been in the franchising space for a while. You've been advisors, I know, on boards as well. So I'm sure you have a lot of great advice here. And so, what is one thing that you would tell someone who's contemplating becoming a franchisee?
Um, I guess my best advice is to do your due diligence and go for it. It's there's a great proverb that says, "When's the best time to plant a tree?" 10 years ago is the answer. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. So plant your tree. Franchise is the best way to do that. It's better than startup, right? So go for it.
I
That's my
like that.
advice.
I like that. That's a good analogy. And so, another question, what's one thing you would tell somebody who's already in that first year of being a franchisee? What's the advice you'd give them in that first year?
Spend more money on marketing. Ramp up as fast as you can, because the faster you ramp up, the longer profitability you'll have. Um, Most franchisees don't spend the money they need to spend marketing for their business. Most business owners don't in any business. So, probably my advice would be look at your marketing, make sure you're getting a good ROI, and spend as much as you can on it.
That's great. That's great advice. Well, thanks, Chris, so much for coming on and talking about Sky Zone. I think this is one where most people kind of know the name. It's been out there. I think it's been on TV shows, and it's there. And to know that you're continuing to innovate, add different things on. There's the membership, the socks, which you wouldn't even think about as a big moneymaker here. And I think the birthday parties, and knowing that you don't have to be in this fancy location too, right? That's one of the things is
Right.
they're going to come to you. They know the name, and so to your point on the marketing, the more you can kind of ramp it up and let them know you're there. But this is one that is for the right investor in this type of business, of larger investment, but it's out there and there's still territory available, even in areas that are as challenging as Atlanta. So thanks so much for coming on and talking to us about this today. I really appreciate it. So for those of you listening, if you're considering franchising as a potential path to business ownership, remember there's no one size fits all to franchise that suits everyone. Even so, there's certainly a franchise out there for you that's perfect. To explore your options and find your perfect match, please visit us at theperfectfranchise.com by clicking on Let's Talk. You can schedule time to speak with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode. Until then, take care.